Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and today we are thrilled to have Paige Rien, a renowned interior designer who has beautifully integrated her deep Catholic faith into her work, and joins us this morning to discuss the intersection of faith and home design. Paige's unique approach, called Vocation-led Interior Design, focuses on creating spaces that not only support our daily lives, but also align with our spiritual journeys. Very excited to hear her insights on how we can all create a domestic church that truly feels like a sanctuary. Good morning and welcome to the show, Paige.
Good morning, Keith. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Before we jump into it, can you maybe share a little about your journey into interior design and how your faith has influenced your approach to designing this domestic church?
Sure. Well, I'm one of those people that's always loved beauty and design. And I was the one when we went to Girl Scout camp and we had a cabin, I rearranged the furniture, much less interested in the hike and whatever the outdoor activities and more interested in like the sheets I brought and stuff like that. So I've always been drawn to that. I've always been drawn to spaces. I've always been an indoor person, less an outdoor person. And so I was immediately drawn to the business of interior design and architecture and art history as a young person. And then in my spiritual journey, especially as I came to know the Catholic Church pretty late in life, I consider myself a late in life convert. The church has so much to say about the home and in a dimension which I had never heard before. Because of course, a lot of times being drawn by beauty, it's on the surface, it's materials, it's fabrics, it's colors, it's wallpaper, it's furniture. But the church has a much deeper statement about the home. We need all those things, but they're not primary. And so I love even the definition of the domestic church in the catechism. To me, is very beautiful.
It is very beautiful. So what inspired you to focus on vocation-led interior design, and how did you come to realize its importance?
Really, through my own vocation, which is, again, a concept in the secular world, which was new to me. I think I didn't really understand what that word meant until I met other women and came to know my faith journey a little bit more deeply. But it's, again, a departure away from the house looking a certain way for an outside person, right? Like let's make the house look as beautiful as we can for the visitor, for the person that might pass by, for Instagram, for outsiders, or even for my own ego, and more about the beauty that supports what we're doing in the home, the purpose of the home. And so this, again, is a journey that I've been like peeling the layers of the onion, where I knew it never sat right to ever do what anybody else does. So I've always hated trends. It didn't sit right to sort of like apply things just to make me look a certain way, to make me look wealthy, or make me look like I had been to France when I hadn't, And those things didn't sit right. And then as I grew as a Catholic, the reason is because the purpose of the home has been lost, especially in sort of our very materialistic culture where we're applying things on the house for some purpose. And I think the real estate world of, a home is a wealth creator for many people. And so that has changed a lot of things, the landscape and the importance of the home. I mean, in my lifetime, I can't believe like how many places and outlets are urging you to change everything now, seasonally or yearly, or spend so much money. So I guess it was really peeling those layers and understanding, what are we doing here? The house is a school of love. The house is where we're creating, we're building life for the next generation. And we're developing ourselves too. So even if you don't have children, the home is still the domestic church. And it's not just a show place, but actually an active, purposeful space for real work.
Yeah. How do you define the concept of the domestic church, and why is it so significant in the context of interior design?
So I'm going to borrow the catechism because I can't improve upon it. And I'm shocked to know that the catechism describes the domestic church as the family. The domestic church is not a place, but a who, which I find quite profound. Because most of us, especially as women, we're ready to make that space up. We're ready to say, let me dive in and do paint colors, and let me dive in, even as a person of faith, let me pick a beautiful image of Jesus for the wall. But the domestic church is the family, and I think that when your vocation is leading this process, it's the people, it's the relationships which lead it. So in the catechism, it says the domestic church is the family. Sorry. This is a AI version of it, but it says the family community of faith, hope, and charity that is central to the church. And it's the idea of the home as a school versus, as I said, a showplace for outer influences and affirmation.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people ready to go to Home Goods or any other type of place to, maybe like Hobby Lobby, to get some things for, the weekend. But what are some practical tips for creating a home environment that really helps support, these daily tasks that we're grinding with, and also long-term vocational goals?
That's a great question. I don't hate Home Goods or Hobby Lobby or anything like that, but I do think we have to understand there is a big push to constantly fill our homes with stuff and new stuff and fresh, and let's try to match what we see online and in magazines or even our neighbors or something like that. So the first step is a little bit like disconnecting from what others are doing, because the domestic church, your domestic church, requires a lot of observation and a lot of focus on what you are doing right now. I mean, a big part of it is observing and recognizing what is our season of life. Because a lot of times you're going to be very frustrated if you have a baby. You're trying to make your house look like someone who's an empty nester and they don't have all of the baby paraphernalia. Or I have 2 high school football players, and so I've got cleats everywhere and all kinds of other things that are part of having athletes. And so my house looks and feels different. And if I'm not recognizing where we are and respecting it and actually rejoicing in it, I'm just comparing and thinking, oh my gosh, I got to put everything away and this doesn't look like it should, and it feels wrong. So I think the first place is really stepping back. Where are you, your season, which all seasons change constantly. So if your season is hard, it is bound to change soon. And that's really the first spot is a little bit more focusing on where you are in your space rather than immediately going out.
I love how you said rejoicing in the current season and not necessarily putting away all, because it can get crazy with toddlers, with all the toys that are just hanging around everywhere. Trying to put them away to make it look like we don't have toddlers. When time comes when all of the kids are out of the house, we'll probably wish we had some of that, the toys that signify that we are back in that season. So that's very interesting how that all
it is. I mean, I wish someone told me how short the toy season is. That toys, which we say, the toys, because a toy seems out of place if we're creating a very adult space either for our own consumption or for the other adults coming. It doesn't work, right? But if we return to what the house is for, that toys play a pivotal role in a child's development. It's not just to occupy them so you can do something else. They actually need toys, trucks, blocks, dolls, whatever it is, to develop and learn in their world. That's their world. And that sort of shift. And then there's a day where the kid's like, I don't really want any of this anymore. I'm done. Or they just stop touching it. So that season is shorter than I think parents realize. It's shorter than certainly for me.
I don't know if I'm ready for that ending period of the toys, to be honest. That sounds, I'm trying so hard not to have tears in my eyes thinking about it. But with that said, can you give maybe a couple examples of design elements that elements or features that can help foster the sense of the domestic church in our homes?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I always encourage people to do is think about who are you with. And so, and what is your story? What is your story in faith? And what is the purpose of this space? And those are a lot of questions, but we tend to jump to, well, what colors do I like? And what's my design influence? We can get there, but start with who's there and what are you doing? So in my family room, I have these big high schoolers that come home and they want to lie down, right? But we all want to be together. So we have to figure out functionally, how are we together? Because in my vocation, time together and time investing and being present to the kids at different stages is a big part of the purpose of that space, right? Mm-hmm. While they're there, I might have a coffee table with some books I'd love them to find. I'd love to, we have been overstyled in this culture to the point where I could go blue in the face talking about what is all that stuff doing and what purpose does it have you in your journey? Usually it's not much. It just kind of looks interesting or somebody told you it was interesting. Let's put things out that we want our children to find. Or for me, I have books, so many books that I'd love to, if I have a free moment, I put them out for myself. Or little just totems or reminders of things to bring God into our present moment. I have Bibles everywhere because I just in case you're walking by and it's open, to something real good, rather than, it's up on a shelf and it's closed and we pull that out when we do that. And that's a choice too. But it's this idea of what are we hoping for? What's our aspiration for the space? What is most important? And what is the family doing there? And thinking about that first, and then going to what I would call the surface treatments, the colors. And colors actually can dovetail into that, because something more soothing if we have a place of relaxation, or something more enervating, big color if it's a space where we want to, I don't know, express joy or express energy or something like that. But again, we got to get clear on our purpose.
Yeah, and the fact that some people put their books in like the color coordinate, and it looks really great. But if you're not pulling some of these books down, especially for yourself, like you said, like you're probably not going to think about reading it. And especially important for us Catholics to put, like you said, the Bibles out, so that way we're more inclined to maybe dust it off and crack it open and actually read Scripture every once in a while. So that's a very great tip there, Paige. Now, before we move on to our after-show clubhouse here in a couple moments, do you have any lasting words, maybe tips, advice for our listeners out there before they start their day?
I am just, for some reason, prompted to say to the listener out there with their home who feels unhappy or unsettled, or like there's so much to do, or overwhelmed, or it's so not what they want it to be. You're doing great. Okay, stick with me. Take a deep breath. Please know that building a home takes a lifetime. What matters most is, we have an audience of one, but after him, it's our family. And so is your work supporting your family today? If it's not, let's start there rather than all the other stuff. And for some of us, we need to turn off whatever's giving us a lot of images that are encouraging us to feel badly about where we live.
Beautifully said. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Paige. We can find more about you and your mission at PaigeRien.com, and that's spelled R-I-E-N. So make sure to go to PaigeRien.com for more information on all things domestic church and design. But that's it for Morning Joy, where truth matters. Now, if you're going to be staying and listening to the Holy Mass coming up next, please pray for us. We'll pray for you as we continue on, at least for the weekend. But if you're going to stay with us, stick with us for the after show clubhouse, where we'll debrief from today's show, maybe extend the conversation just a little bit more, and interact with you. Yes, join us. Go search Morning Joy Radio on our YouTube. It's a very, very fruitful conversation that occurs. But yes, if this is us parting ways for the week, God bless, and make it a joyful weekend. We'll see you Monday.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.